Welcome to the Midwest Future Forum, brought to you by the City of Williston. I'm Sean Wenko, Executive Director of the Williston Economic Development Office. I'm excited because this is the third installment of the Midwest Future Forum that we've done here out of this office. And what we've tried to do in the past with these forums is we're seeing a lot of interest that is happening now in what we would call emerging technologies, innovative energy activity that's happening in Western North Dakota. In fact, I refer a lot to, when people ask me about what's going on out here in the current state, I refer a lot to this as our second boom, meaning that it's a different type of industries that are looking, more industries that are looking to capture on what we would define as value added, and really diversify the economy here. So this third installment, we're going to talk about energy innovation in Western North Dakota. And we've got a tremendous panel with us today. Kicking off, we've got Rich Garman. He's the Deputy Director of Economic Development and Finance for the North Dakota Department of Commerce. We have Kathy Spillman. She's the Managing Director for K2 Engineers and Consultants out of Mandan, North Dakota. She's the Engineering Advisor to AIC Energy Corp, which we'll talk a little bit about in the show today as well. And we have Steve Kemp. He's a Williams County Commissioner here, and he's the founding president of Wellspring Hydro. It's a very innovative industry that we'll talk about as well. So thank you and welcome to my three panelists that I have here today. I want to go over to you, Rich, and talk a little bit about, because again, we're going to throw the word around value added a lot during this discussion. From a state perspective, what does value added mean? What is it defined as?
Sure, Sean. Thanks for that question. Value added is a pretty simple concept. Value added means adding economic enhancements to a product before offering it to customers. In the energy industry, a great example would be refining crude oil or processing natural gas into plastic. Anything that adds value to a natural commodity that we might have in the state, adding value to it is the value add process. One kind of unique one that's out there right now that we've been evaluating quite a lot lately is data centers. We take a stream of energy and we add value to that stream of energy by manipulating data or mining data or doing whatever. So value add is taking a commodity that we have in the energy world of gas, oil, electricity, and adding value to it before we sell it to an outside of the state customer or an inside of the state customer. So.
Well, and the big thing people will see as well, I think, from out here, from a Western North Dakota perspective, talking value added, I said, well, just drive around, look at all the flares that are happening out there. That's natural gas being flared off. There's value in there. It's just attracting and working with the industries that can capture that gas and create some sort of product out of there. Absolutely. I'm going to stay with you though, Rich. The one thing that our governor has been very vocal about is innovation in North Dakota. And when we look at North Dakota in encouraging innovation in the energy industry, what impact have these innovations made so far?
Impacts of the innovation concept that's out there right now, Sean, are unbelievable, basically. I feel there's been really two basic fundamental things that have been put forward in the last year. You mentioned one of them was with the governor, and actually they both kind of lie within the governor's office. They've been transformational for the energy industry. The first and probably most profound one I see is when Governor Burgum laid the challenge out for the state to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030. Going hand in hand with this goal is how we're going to get there. And we've all heard the phrase innovation over regulation. That's massively important. What does it mean? It means that we're putting the challenge out there for companies to get innovative and develop ways to operate in a carbon neutral way. And this is huge for North Dakota because of where North Dakota is physically and geologically. You hear the term all the time, geological jackpot. That's real. The geological jackpot means we have the ability to store, I think it's 250 billion tons of CO2 underground in North Dakota. And that means that we have like over 4,000 years worth of North Dakota production of CO2 that we could store underground, or over 50 years worth of CO2 we could store underground from the entire country. It's working. It's absolutely working, having those two concepts in place. We've multiplied the number of projects in the pipeline in North Dakota several times over. Our potential project portfolio currently stands at over 180 projects. And those are worth in excess of over $40 billion. And of those projects, about 2/3 of them are energy related. that shows me that it's working. That's multiplied many times over the last few years. There's a few other things too that are out there that make North Dakota unique in this area too. And one is a word that I didn't know very well until I came to work here, but the word primacy. Only two states in the United States, North Dakota and Wyoming, have what's called primacy with the EPA. And what that means is the North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality has primacy for all environmental programs in North Dakota. And that's a very good thing. Primacy means North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality has the responsibility for ensuring the state complies with the many federal regulations and laws that are out there, but also that they have the authority to enforce those laws and related regulations. Bottom line, what that means is North Dakota can turn around permits in months as opposed to years. That's huge, especially in the energy industry. When things turn so fast in the energy industry, we can get projects up and running many months in advance of what other states can do.
Well, and that's, one thing you brought up, and I just really always love when the governor says this, but innovation over regulation, because we found more in economic development, especially in Western North Dakota, is when oil prices drop, that's when I see the entrepreneurs really show up, because they're finding ways to take a product, add value to it, or figure out a way to continue to move forward. And that's where some of our great projects are happening. One of the biggest things and discussions you'll hear a lot coming out of this office and the county office is really what's happening west of town around the Trenton, North Dakota area. You saw an announcement several months ago from the Canadian-based group Sarillon that's going to do a gas to liquids plant. But we also got the AIC Energy down there. And I'm going to shift over to you, Kathy. If you could share a little background with us on AIC Energy Corp and the SA Fuels X Sustainable Aviation Project. Now that's going to be located in Trenton. What is it and what does it mean for innovation for us?
Thank you so much for that question. In short, this facility will convert vegetable oil into vehicle fuels, primarily jet fuels and diesel, although a limited amount of unfinished gasoline type liquids will also be produced. Now, most people are familiar with biodiesel. This is not biodiesel. Renewable fuels, unlike biodiesel, mimic the chemistry of fossil fuels. Renewable diesel meets the same state fuel specifications as petroleum diesel. It can be shipped on existing pipelines and can be dispensed at existing retail stations. No retrofits to engines, no impacts to vehicle warranties. People may not even know that they are purchasing and using renewable diesel. Existing fuel dispensers handle renewable diesel, traditional diesel, and any blend of the two. Renewable fuels are a true innovation, and the conversion is happening worldwide. Traditional petroleum refiners are even in the process of retooling some of their former refineries to produce renewable fuels. Unlike those revamped units, this project is not a retrofit. It will be new, additional fuel production capacity in our state. And while we'll be capable of producing diesel fuel, its unique focus is on turbine fuel, or what commonly is referred to as jet fuel. The industry designation for this specific renewable fuel is sustainable aviation fuel, abbreviated as SAF and pronounced SAF. Hence the project name SAF-X. Renewable fuels have been around for years, but until recent moves by our governments and worldwide, they've incentivized its production. And until this incentives were created, it had been a minor source of fuels for vehicles. Renewable fuels do cost more, but renewable fuels produce between 50 and 80% less greenhouse gas than petroleum diesel, depending upon what feedstocks we use to actually create that fuel. AIC will eventually explore another emerging technology, carbon capture and sequestration, and possibly deploy it there. If so, the SAF-X carbon footprint would be reduced even further. The facility will process about 100 million gallons per year of vegetable oil. That's approximately 6,500 barrels a day and qualifies as a mid-sized facility. The best product markets are currently on the East and West coasts. So products, as well as the vegetable oil feedstock, will be shuttled in and out via rail. We will connect by pipeline to the adjacent existing rail facility at Trenton. AIC expects to employ between 65 and 70 people directly, and another 35 to 40 jobs are expected at the adjacent rail port, facility contractors, and the truck transportation necessary to support our operations, plus local jobs to support this new workforce. That's 100 jobs in this area resulting from this facility.
That's a great explanation, Kathy, on the project that we're seeing in Trenton in Western North Dakota. You know, one of the big things is we talk a lot about oil and gas, but it's easy to forget that agriculture is one of the top North Dakota industries that we're seeing here. So when we're talking about the SA Fuels project, how does the partnerships, how will the ag industry benefit from this? And this would be a good question. You know, I'll let you answer, Kathy, and then also I'd like to hear from Williams County Commissioner Steve Kemp as a commissioner on this, because obviously in Williams County with the portfolio, there's a whole lot of ag land out there.
Well, with recent emphasis on renewable fuels, commodities suppliers have forecasted a very tight vegetable oil supply in the next 5 years. And to ensure sufficient supply of oilseed feedstock, AIC Energy Corp has partnered with Bartlett Grain, one of the largest agribusiness companies in this country. The great news for our area soybean and canola growers is that it calls for additional seed crush capacity in our area. Several crush plant capacity expansions have already been announced since our project started in July of 2020. Value added to our crops and even more value added to the crush plant product. Our plan is to consume about 70 million bushels of soybean oil, which represents production from 1.3 million acres each year. Our plant is being designed for switch operation to eventually process the regionally grown canola and canola oil. The US EPA is in the process of expanding fuel credit program to include canola, and the schedule calls for that action yet this year. So we would expect to commit, if using canola, about 38 million bushels of canola and 1.1 acres of production each year. A local supply of canola oil coupled with the higher yield per acre of oil will reduce our carbon footprint. The smaller the footprint, the better for the environment.
Thanks, Kathy. I want to jump to you, Steve, but I want you to answer with your Williams County Commissioner hat on, if you could. What is the ag industry saying to projects like this? Do they understand it? Is it acceptable? Do they see a future of it? What are you hearing on the side when we're looking at it from a county perspective?
That is probably the most exciting part of that, Sean. And it's the ag industry needs that diversity in demand for product that they can deliver. And offering this up from a canola perspective and then having it go to good use right here in North Dakota to generate fuels that never existed before. It's just fantastic. And there's general excitement about once they get to the point of mashing here and utilizing canola. We're very excited for that project to progress to that point. So yeah, there's absolute excitement from the county's perspective and from the ag sector in particular. And as you know, we have a couple of farmers on our county commission, so they speak to that directly and represent that industry very well. And so we're really excited about SA Fuels and AIC Energy Corp getting off the ground and getting that mashing facility is especially exciting.
Excellent. And you know, the one thing I keep emphasizing the point that all of this leads towards more diversification in Western North Dakota. So, you know, obviously we're a market based on commodities. When prices are good, things are going crazy. When prices are down, you know, we see those up and down swings. When we're able to diversify, when we talk about adding this innovation, value added, we're able to survive some of those downturns when we see in commodity prices. So I push that a lot. When we see investment dollars, whether it be on the East Coast or abroad, they should not be concerned to invest in Western North Dakota now because of these projects that are starting to happen. Because again, we're taking byproduct of agriculture, oil and gas industry. We're creating value to it, and there's going to be a huge supply of all that stuff as we go into the future. But we've talked about natural gas, we've talked about canola. We're going to talk a bit about produced water, and that's where Wellspring Hydro comes in. So, Steve, switch hats. Let's go back as the founder and owner of Wellspring Hydro. What is it?
Well, Wellspring Hydro, as you well know, was born back in 2016 by a call to you, and you suggested I go down to the EERC in Grand Forks and explain what this idea was. But it was born of an idea to extract lithium from produced water, which was, I thought it wasn't an innovative idea until we looked into and there's no other industry doing it right now. And so we brought that idea to the EERC, who transitioned us to the School of Mining and Engineering at University of North Dakota, and we did a senior engineering project study with the senior engineering students at UND, and that scoping study, which they completed in 2017, was really interesting. It pointed out that just mining lithium from produced water was not economically viable, and they unlocked a new perspective for us, and that was on hydrochloric acid and the ability to use the salt in our produced water to make hydrochloric acid, which gets reused in the industry, as well as caustic soda. And interestingly enough, caustic soda ends up getting used used in carbon capture. And so we've got a really good mix of products that are spun off from this original idea of just getting lithium out of the water. Now what we've really developed into is a chlor-alkali plant, a first of its kind in the world, where we are taking the salt from produced water and running that through a chlor-alkali process, which is in essence taking sodium chloride and splitting those two off. The sodium comes off as the caustic soda. The chlorine comes off as a gas. We react that in a hydrogen burner, and that creates hydrochloric acid, which gets reused in the industry for fracking, for saltwater disposal well cleanup. It's used in the food industry, for heaven's sakes. High fructose corn syrup is a heavy consumer of hydrochloric acid. So there's just lots of applicable uses for these commodity chemicals. But the key is we're taking a waste stream, and it's the single largest waste stream in the oil and gas industry. And we're converting that waste into usable products. And more excitingly, even in the latter part of our project now, we've partnered with a technology partner that has proven out extracting lithium from produced water, from Bakken produced water, no less. And we're getting about 99.7% of the lithium out of the water in our preliminary testing. And so we're extraordinarily excited to bring lithium back into our project, and it will be phase one out of the gates. We'll be extracting lithium from produced water. And so it's a really great opportunity and a great story to tell for traditional oil and gas, who, let's face it, are lousy at marketing because they fail to bring up that they saved the whale. And that since we were burning whale blubber at a phenomenal rate, and we were going to extinct whales before we discovered this black gold under the ground. And so with that, what we're trying to do is we get this great opportunity to tell a fantastic story with traditional oil and gas, their biggest waste stream being turned into lithium that's going to be used in batteries that power EVs and cell phones and power tools all around the world. And so we think that it's an exciting project where we're really getting close to execution. We hope to be beginning construction right in the spring of next year.
Thanks, Stephen. And again, pointing out, we're taking products, we're taking waste, we're creating value to it, and what does that do? One, like you said, you talked about the carbon footprint. We're going more environmental friendly for the industry. It's helping them be more environmental friendly. It also, what a lot of people don't see is when you're creating value to something like that, that's value back to the industry. What does that mean? They can operate at a lower break-even point. Okay, so again, we're not so dependent on the price of these commodities, and we can handle some of these wild swings that we see in the prices out there. So I want to, just to finish up, I want to give each of you a last word talking about the future of North Dakota. I'm going to jump back over to you, Rich. What does the future of North Dakota's energy industry look like? What do you want, and what would you want other innovators to know about North Dakota? And I'm going to give all three of you that same question. I'll start with you, Rich.
Well, Sean, before I came to Commerce a little less than a year ago, I spent 31 years in the energy industry. And for pretty much that entire time, I've heard the phrase, all of the above energy solutions. And for pretty much that entire time, I kind of think that phrase was just lip service to appease people. I'll pick on everybody here, but renewables would support renewables, oil supported oil, gas supported gas, coal, etc. North Dakota now, though, has truly begun to move down a path of sustainable, realistic energy plan. Carbon capture and sequestration has been a game changer. We now have the ability to separate carbon from hydrocarbon-based energy. I've had this discussion with several project developers. These project developers come to the state and sometimes set a project requirement of renewable energy supply. They set a new renewable energy supply requirement for their project, which is noble, but at this point, it's very difficult to achieve that goal. Renewable energy is really only available when the wind is blowing or the sun is shining. Now, it seems that the wind never stops blowing in North Dakota, but statistically, it really does stop occasionally. It blows a little less than 40% of the time effectively. So solar is only available when the sun's shining. So what limits both these sources is the challenge of energy storage. Energy storage is a difficult problem to solve. There's batteries, but they're not quite to the scale that we need them yet to store, megawatts or gigawatts of power. There's other energy storage technologies out there as well, but these are theoretical and some in the developmental stage now. But being able to add hydrocarbon-based energy back into these carbon neutral solutions is a game changer. I just got back actually yesterday from spending 3 days in Washington, D.C. at a Select USA conference. We met with literally dozens and dozens of companies that want to discuss moving their companies to North Dakota. Many of these are energy-based companies. When we shared carbon capture and sequestration story with them, their jaws dropped. Several of these companies are coming to the state within the next few months, and they want to evaluate North Dakota as a place for them to land their business here in the United States. The encouraging part is this makes realistic sense. Yes, renewables, wind and solar are an important part of the long-term energy solution in North Dakota and as a nation. But now the stigma of carbon has been replaced on the energy industry by some of these entities, is now being removed with this revolutionary concept or process of carbon capture and sequestration. And that's not all. There's a new wrinkle in the energy industry, which is the potential for hydrogen production in North Dakota. As we all know, we have an abundance of natural gas. With a combination of natural gas and the ability to sequester that carbon, we're poised to move into a whole new energy world with hydrogen production. So I want innovators to know, and in fact, I told a lot of them this week, that North Dakota is open for business with a wide variety of energy sources, truly in all of the above energy policy that we're out there they're touting now. And we're just beginning to move down this path, and we'll need to encourage all of the most innovative developers to come here and help us continue to solve this energy puzzle.
Thanks, Rich. And you mentioned a couple of times, I love that you said game changer, because
Yes.
it reminds me, if you go back 15 years ago and we're talking about fracking the Bakken,
Absolutely.
and the technology, and everybody kept saying this is a game changer, and you look at where we're at and the advancements we've made and what it's done for the state of North Dakota, what it's done for Western North Dakota, now we're in something, a little bit different, that's innovative, and it's a game changer. It's going to be a big deal for us when we look at growth in Western North Dakota. So
Absolutely.
Kathy, I'll jump over to you. Representing a big company like AIC Energy Corp, what would you like other innovators to know about North Dakota?
Well, I think it's important to note that we have always been on the leading edge. I mean, we have the only gas conversion to natural gas, which was the U.S.'s approach, one of the approaches in the middle of the 1970s oil embargo, and looking for other sources of fuels. Now that asset appears to be being redeployed now with better technology as a possible hydrogen hub. So this is not just a demonstration yet, this is commercial scale. Just like the AIC Corp facility, this is not demonstration, this is commercial scale. So industries should look at North Dakota because we have great infrastructure. We have water, we have power, we have roads, we have the personnel to staff those facilities. And We're not a podunk state. We are technologically advanced, and we are here to partner with you and have your facility here amongst the rest that are here already.
Thanks, Kathy. And that's another thing to bring up is you look at because of because of the oil and gas industry and what they have contributed to North Dakota. You talk a bit about the infrastructure, and you couldn't be more correct. We put billions of dollars in infrastructure here in Western North Dakota, whether we're talking water, roads, transmission lines, pipelines. We've put it in here to help get us up and running. And so that infrastructure is here now, and we're kind of ready for that second phase. And I'm going to roll into you now, Steve. Let's talk from an economic development, commission standpoint, Williams County, Western North Dakota. The one thing I've always enjoyed and prided myself on is when we have entrepreneurs come into this office, we're always very open to their ideas. And when I connect them with guys like you as county commissioners or our city commissioners, our mayor, our leadership, the leadership is always, we're going to figure out a way to make this happen. Now, it doesn't mean it's a free for all for everybody to come in. You can do whatever you want, but I've always enjoyed, how business friendly we are here in Williams County. What, if you want to say something to innovators from a government standpoint, what can they expect if they're looking at investing here in the area?
Right. Well, number one, our government entities out here work at the speed of business, not the speed of government. And I'm very proud of that. Our staff does a tremendous job on both the county and the city, and I can speak to those two entities and the state as well. We move at light speed compared to other government entities, and that's really important when you're trying to get things done. And time is money. And shrinking that time gap, it allows people to make more money. So that's number one, stress number one. I'd like to stress point number two is we're about to turn the petrochemical industry on its head out here. This is a brand new way to do petchem, and we're going to do it and set the example for the world. So often North Dakota has been the white space on the map, and what I would venture to say is we're becoming a green space. And I mean that in many different ways. And most importantly, green as in green back. This is becoming a great place to invest money and a tremendous opportunity. And as an example, having a carbon neutral or carbon negative petrochemical facility where we're producing fuels that are low carbon fuels based on the fact that we're capturing any carbon that's being generated while those fuels are being made. We've got unbelievable projects that we can't even get into specifics about, but a lot of that is being driven by the carbon neutrality and that goal that the governor set forth for us to become carbon neutral by 2030. It was spot on, and it's the perfect opportunity to attract funds, investment funds from the coast, and we're ready to turn this thing on its head. And it's truly amazing what's coming, and watch out because North Dakota is about to blow up.
Thanks, Steve. And I'm glad you pointed out we work at the speed of business because, again, I just can't emphasize that anymore when we're looking at a business-friendly climate, North Dakota in general. But, me representing, Williston and talking about Williams County, Western North Dakota, we move things forward. Again, like you said, at the speed of business. Again, it doesn't mean it's a free for all out here. Things are done the right way. There's policies and procedures that need to be followed, but we don't sit on projects. If there's a project that's good, it's going to happen, and it can happen. We're going to help move that forward. So, one thing too I want to jump into is that the size and the impact of the investment happening out here. I don't think people get their hands around how much is being invested. And what I mean by that, we're not talking about millions. We're talking about hundreds of millions into the billions, okay? We talk about Western North Dakota, what's going on down in that Trenton area. This is potential. You could see anywhere from $7 to $8 billion in investment happen in that Trenton area. Now, does that mean 100% we're going to see all $8 billion? Probably not. But even if you get a half of that, that's still in the billions of dollars of what we're seeing with innovative industry. So it's an exciting time right now to look at Western North Dakota, look at what we have, look at North Dakota in general, because this is This is like I think Richard said, this is a game changer. This is the second boom for us. We're gonna, we're working more towards diversification, and we're just gonna see a lot of things spur now in this whole value added capacity. I want to thank all of you, all three of you, for taking the time to be on the panel today. This is the end of our third installment of the Midwest Future Forum. I'm Sean Wenko, the Executive Director of the Williston Economic Development Office. If you'd like to know more about the office, please visit willistondevelopment.com.